I guess it started in year 2000. Some guy heard that the satellites were no longer being scrambled so that you could actually get some sort of signal from them. And so he just put it out there on the internet. I hid something at these coordinates, go find it. And within a week, a couple of people had actually gone out and found it. So that's how it started out in California. I know that a lot of people sort of make a trip just to go to that place to see where geocaching started. I haven't done that yet, but I know a lot of people, that's one of the things they want to do in their geocaching life, is to go and check that one out. It was a big 5-gallon bucket with, I don't know, food or weird things in there. I guess a can of beans was in there, and pretty strange stuff for considering what we hide in them now. It's really different.
Geocaching is becoming a widespread activity, and many people come across it in different ways.
First of all, I saw a videotape on TV that got my interest, and then I actually had a friend take me out for a multi-cache in the middle of September when it was actually like 100 degrees outside, and it was a multi-cache, and every one of them was a different bug hidden in a different place with the coordinates of the next place on there, and I was just hooked. It was a lot of fun. It was physical activity. It was mental activity. It was social. It was everything. You know, it made it a lot of fun.
One person in particular found out about geocaching through a local public radio broadcast.
The first time I got interested, I heard a Wisconsin public radio listener, and I heard a program on there about it, talking about geocaching in state parks and local parks, and that's what started me off.
Many people who enjoy outdoor activities will somehow find their way to geocaching.
Originally, I got started as buying a GPS to go camping and hiking with, and then as I was researching that, I came across the geocaching website and thought, well, this looks like a fun activity, and kind of went from there.
My parents, they took me out, and I just went with them, and I just kind of kept going along with it.
My first experience was a geocaching social event right here in Greenfield. It was called the Halloween All Aglow event. It was a nighttime event and had geocaches in the park at night, Halloween themed. I met a lot of people there and answered my questions about geocaching, and it got me interested. I didn't even have a geocache or a GPS when I first started out, and I borrowed one from someone, and then I was off and going.
With the thousands of different caches hidden in the U.S. alone, there are many different types to keep participants interested.
So geocaches can really vary. There are geocaches called virtual geocaches where there's actually not a physical geocache at the site, and basically that involves when you make your find, as it were, since there's no piece of paper to sign, no log at the site, you can go to the cache page, it's called, on the web. Each geocache has a cache page which identifies where the geocache is and its details. You actually go there and log it.
The last one that was actually placed was the big jelly bean thing in the Millennium Park in Chicago. And virtual caches where you actually go there. You don't really find something there, but you go there and you experience something. So what you'd have to do when you go to the big bean is have your picture taken with your reflection on the surface of the bean. There are earth caches now that are similar, except that a virtual cache could be anything like a mailbox or the bean or a historic building. An earth cache has something to do with the earth. It could be a glacier, it could be something where you take the flow of water out of a spring, temperature, different things. And those are fun too because they really get you out and look at the world.
The first most common type is called a traditional cache, and that just is one where you have the simple coordinates and you go to that place and then you find the cache.
The biggest one I ever found, it was huge. It was like a giant suitcase full of kids' toys out in the middle of the woods. How they dragged that out there is beyond me. Amazing. And then the smallest ones are about the size of your little finger. I have a couple of those. Those drive new cachers crazy because they don't really know what they're looking for. Multi-caches, I like those because that's the first one I ever found. where they take you to different places.
More advanced caches often include codes and complex clues, making the hunt more of a challenge.
There are geocache puzzles, which you have to actually solve a puzzle, either at your desk or in front of your smartphone, or in the field. It could be a physical puzzle, which then will take you to a physical cache hide.
I like simple puzzle caches, where you go someplace, you look at whatever you find there, and use the information there to put together. It's not like you find the bug where the coordinates are actually there. You have to do something with the information there to get the next coordinates, and you might be right, you might be wrong. You might end up in the wrong place. And that's happened to me. I put it together and wait a minute, it's not in the middle of the street. I know that. So you have to go back and relook at the information that you've gotten.
Most basic type would be just a traditional cache, which is shown and identified on the cache pages as a little green ammo box. It's the most common geocache type of them all.
Geocaching is all about going outdoors and having fun, but there are a few things you need to keep in mind when going out on your first cache.
I would suggest you go with somebody. I had the pleasure of doing that with somebody else.
I find it more fun to go with a couple people, then we can talk and have a lot more fun that way than when you're by yourself. I have a tendency to get lost easily, so.
I guess I would go to a place, look on the map, find out if there's a cache in a location that's familiar to you, maybe a park that's in your neighborhood, or if it's an urban cache that you go someplace, a business or something where you're familiar, so that you at least have wiped out all kinds of possibilities because you've already been there, and kind of work your way up. Also know about the terrain and the difficulty in solving the problem, so that you don't start with a 5, which would be like the hardest one. Start with a 1 and work your way up.
The only things you need to get started in geocaching are a GPS or cell phone and a little creativity.
At a minimum, you need some kind of a GPS receiver, though to be honest, there are people that actually geocache without. Using like Google Maps. You can actually zoom in close enough using Google Maps to get close enough that you can actually kind of see approximately where the cache is going to be located, and then you can do it that way. But for most people, at a minimum, either a smartphone with a GPS on it or an actual handheld GPS unit. Well, the very first thing you need to do is get an account on geocaching.com, and it's free. And once you do that, you find some caches that are in your area. You go and either write down the coordinates for the cache and enter it in by hand, or if you're really getting into it, you can download the coordinates right to the GPS. So that's first thing you need to do.
Once you've picked your location and you're all set to head out, make sure that your equipment is ready.
Well, turn the GPS on. It takes a minute or two usually to take and get the satellite signals rather, locked in so that you have an accurate idea of where you are. And once you have the coordinates are in the GPS, you have them entered in already, but you have to tell the GPS to go to the coordinates. Once you do that, it's really as simple as following an arrow on a map, and there should be a distance at the bottom of the screen generally, and it'll tell you how far away you are and what direction to go, and you start walking. You want to start looking for things that appear to be kind of out of the ordinary. People that have been geocaching a long time, we usually call those geobeacons. Sometimes it's a pile of sticks on the ground and the cache is underneath there. Holes in trees, things like that. You know, it depends on the size of the cache you're looking for. Caches can range from micros, where they're, you know, tiny little things like this, to full-size ammo cans, you know, and anywhere in between. So knowing what you're looking for, you can kind of limit or kind of eliminate some hiding places and, you know, focus on others then. The more difficult ones are usually micros, because just because of the size of them. The really, really difficult ones are ones that people take and they'll actually camouflage something so well that it's almost impossible to distinguish it from the environment. A good example of that would be, I have seen caches where it'll be a tree, and the tree will be there, and there'll be a stick, you know, along with all the other branches and stuff. But they've actually taken the stick and bored out a hole into the tree. Usually it's a dead tree. So they'll bowl a hole out, and the cache will be inside of the hole. The stick will be inside of that hole, so it looks like it's just a branch. And unless unless you're thinking, you know, kind of outside the box, you may not. And I've seen several of those, and it can take a while to figure that out.
When the search is over and you've located the geocache, the first thing you can do is sign the log.
At a minimum, you want to take and sign the log. Every cache should have some kind of a log sheet in there. And we usually put the date, occasionally you put the time, and then your geocaching handle. And then the other thing you should do is log the cache online. And there you can kind of go into more detail about, you know, how it was that you found the cache, you know, stuff that might have happened, things like that. Some people go into, you know, great lengths in their log entries. Some people put kind of a just thanks for the cache.
Another way you can leave your mark on some caches is by swapping items.
The larger caches will have we call swag, and that can range from McDonald's toys. I've seen a lot of those. This bracelet I have on, I found in a cache. It says geocaching on it. Sometimes there's these things called path tags, which are kind of like a personal swag item, and they're like little coins that people collect. But it pretty much runs the gambit. Things that you don't want to put inside of a cache would be like food, things that wouldn't be friendly to children. Those kind of things you want to avoid, especially food, because animals will smell that and then they'll just rip into the cache, and that's not a good thing.
When I first started geocaching, it was all about the geocaching, and we would, you know, go out for a whole day, and we were so green, because we would do it all on paper, and we'd run reams and reams of sheets of all the clues and all the information, and now it's all paperless, you know. So even on my smartphone now, I can just say, oh, you know, I'm visiting a friend here, I wonder if there's a cache nearby, and on my phone I can do it. So now I can incorporate it into just about anything that I do. But when we first started, it was like all about the geocaching. You know, we'd meet up, we'd have an area staked out that we were going to go, or a route figured out. We would do this for days before we'd actually like leave the house to do it. And now it's just sort of like, oh, I wonder if there's something here, and go look for it. So it's evolved.
Geocaching can be a leisurely activity to get you outdoors, but it can also have a competitive edge. With everyone's busier lifestyle these days, it can usually be all about finding the cache.
Interestingly, because people are so short with time these days, although you could do it either way, most people like to just on the fly just find a geocache. You know, again, because geocaches are hidden everywhere in the United States. If you go visit someone, your grandma in Florida, you could find a geocache that's probably in a park near her. It just gets you outside to explore the area. So, you know, people have been geocaching for a very long time. In a day's time, they might go out for a few hours and find more than 30 or 40 caches just because they enjoy it, where most people will find 1 or 2 or 3 just to get out and relax for a short while.
With today's advancing technology, geocaching is something that can be done almost anywhere, anytime, with the use of a cell phone.
You can find geocaches all over the world. Most countries have geocaches. In the United States, it's immensely popular, in Europe as well. The Midwest particularly is a hotbed for geocaches. So within the greater Milwaukee area here, for example, there's probably more than 1,500 caches within all the communities of this area. So it's really amazing. Probably where you live, the nearest park to you probably has at least 1, if not more, geocaches right near you.
Although it seems you can find a geocache just about anywhere, there are a few rules and regulations about the placement of these caches.
There are rules about placing geocaches. The geocache website's run by an organization called Groundspeak, and they are very particular about the rules because they don't want geocaching to become a hobby that's a problem in society, and that with issues with terrorism now and such like we have like that, we have to be careful with that. We also don't want them hidden on private property. We don't want people upset with the geocaching community for that. And so, not to say you can't find them on private property or business property, because there are people who allow that. It's actually a good thing because it brings people in the community to these places as well. But other places where they can't be hidden near bridges, water towers, electrical installations, places like this as well.
Owning your own geocache is just as easy as it is to find them. You just need a few simple materials.
Again, it's really easy. The website's pretty intuitive. It's just a matter of you deciding you want to do it. It doesn't really cost much in the way of money. You can recycle something as simple as a peanut butter container after it's been washed out. Put a piece of paper in it for a log so when people find it, they can record that they found it. And then creating the cache page on the web is as simple as entering the coordinates for where your geocache is at, and then you're off and running.
Some of the best geocaches are the ones made of simple materials.
Some of the best geocaches I've found over the years were ones where people recycled containers and just put it together with really simple things that they found around the house, so it's really easy.
Geocaching is a great experience for everyone, from all the new people you can meet and all the new experiences you have.
For myself, it really gets me outside. It helps you explore your local community, the local parks. You learn where all your local parks are that you were never aware of. You visit all the local state parks, county parks as well, and you really learn the place where you live.
Well, I've met terrific friends, and that was sort of like a nice addition. I never thought that would come out of it. I wanted to do something physical, get out of the house and do something, but I'm also kind of a little techno geek, and I like to do computers and I like that sort of thing. So I like the mental part, the physical part. The social part was the part that was really the nice surprise at the end.
Not so much as like a wilderness survival, but like learning which paths not to take, what plants not to walk through because they will cut your legs up. I mean, looking in places that you wouldn't normally look.
A lot of enjoyment. It's a very family-friendly activity. It gets you outside, do a lot of hiking, and the people, I would say, is another big thing. There's a lot of people that I really would never have met if it wasn't because of geocaching. And I think that's probably one of the best things that I've gotten out of geocaching.
As you now know, geocaching is something that anyone can get started in. It's a great activity that gets you outdoors,